So that brings us all the way to Bonds of Mara. How did you meet
Yeah.
the other members, and where did the idea of starting a band together? This was basically a super group.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much what happened with that was I took some time off from Smashing Satellites and I had a little bit of time to breathe and kind of think what I wanted to do next. We rewind to the My Darkest Days era. You remember us opening up for Default 2012, 2013. Default actually opened up for My Darkest Days on our US tour. And I had a chance to actually spend a lot of time with the Default guys. Loved those guys, still love those guys to this day. But me and Dave connected immediately on that tour. Like, I remember Dave is like a huge fan of 80s metal. Like, even obscure 80s bands that you've never heard of, he was like so into it. And I remember us sitting on the tour bus right now, and we were talking about music, and he's talking about, bands that he liked. And I told him about an 80s band that I opened for as an independent artist before I was in My Darkest Days. And he looked at me like I had toured with Michael Jackson. Like I told him that. Like, to him, that was the most epic thing. And I always thought that was so funny because it was like there was like 20 people at this show, but Dave would have been, if that tour came through Vancouver and he was living there, Dave would have been at that show. And Dave's that guy that's just like, it doesn't have to be cool right now. He just, if he loves it, he's there. He's a fan. I love Dave. He's a fan. He's one of the, he's a musician and a well-known musician, but he's just a total fan at the same time and stuff. And so between that and then also I remember seeing Dave play when I was an independent artist recording an album in Vancouver. He jumped on stage with this independent band, and I just remember how much he rocked on stage, and I just loved watching him every night play. So I kind of felt like it was time to do something again, and I was just like, I'm gonna call Dave. So I called Dave, and Dave wasn't Default had not kind of done it, wasn't doing anything. I said, dude, I was like, I love you. I think you're an amazing bass player. I'm thinking of starting a project. Would you be into it? And he's like, yeah, totally. So I said, I'm going to try and rally some other troops and let's get together. I've been writing. I have some cool ideas. And the next person I actually reached out to was Brian Byrne from My Mother Earth, who I was a huge fan of. And as soon as I called Brian, he's like, I'm in. I'm like, oh, this is great. We got guitar, bass player, got singer. I'm on the guitar. And I was like, who could play drums? And the first person I was just like, I actually had thought of at first was Jack Irons, who's the original drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, was the drummer for Pearl Jam, and was the drummer for the Wallflowers. And I actually reach out to him, and I actually have this remember this vividly because I was in the bathtub and my phone rang because I think I texted him or whatever, and it was Jack. And again, I'm a huge Chili Peppers fan. So we start talking right away. And we just kind of got into talking about the Chili Peppers right away because he had just toured with the Chili Peppers. The Chili Peppers brought him on tour with his drumming solo project. He just plays drums and does all this cool stuff. And he was talking about, he's like, yeah, he's like, Flea came out and I asked me to go on the tour. So we're talking about the Chili Peppers, the history of the Chili Peppers, and being in the band. So he agreed to play on some of the songs, and he killed it. But when it came time to being like a touring thing, he's like, I just don't think I want to be on tour right now. So I thought of other people that I love, and I called Rich, the drummer for Finger Eleven. And so Rich ended up being the drummer for the project until he was in his green card process, and he had some visa issues, so he couldn't come across the border. And the song was starting to chart, and we weren't able to get him to come out, unfortunately. And that's when Dave said, hey, I got this friend from, back in the day. His name's Daryl. We should call him. And we called him, and he ended up being the drummer. And that's kind of how it kind of came together. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. We literally, with those guys, we just never stopped laughing. It was the most fun I think I've ever had playing in a band, for sure.
I've had Rich on the podcast twice. I have the album
Oh, nice.
here in his honor. And
Oh, yeah.
the longest interview I've ever done on the podcast was with Rich. We did a 3.5 hour interview. This was probably about 3 years ago. Oh, I was gonna mention the snare sound on the drums for the Wallflowers One Headlight. That's like
Yes.
my favorite recorded
Oh, I know.
snare. Yeah,
I know.
whenever I'm in the car, I crank that, and that snare has so much snap to it. So I don't know if that's the drummer you're talking about, but that snare is amazing.
I love that. I love that record. Yeah, Jack is like, he's a ridiculous, he's amazing, man. I mean, he's so cool too. He's just a nice dude as well. Yeah, he's awesome.
We have a fan question from Rick O'Shea. The question is, I'm curious what first drew you to Brian as the front man for the band. So Brian Byrne, this guy Rick O'Shea is a huge I Mother Earth fan.
Well, so before I even called Dave, before I called anybody and I had the vision for the band, I, being a Chili Peppers fan, I wanted something that was going to be very organic and that wasn't going to be the kind of generic, straightforward rock sound that was happening at that time, or even at this time now, where it's very like new. It's like, oh, it's almost like rock now is almost like new metal in a way, but it's not. It's got like that super oversaturated guitars, like super saturated guitar riffs. I wanted something that was going to be rock, but like a more funky and cool. And I was like, who would be able to sing that and like that? And then I just remember the Summertime in the Void music video. And there was always something about Brian in that video. He's also kind of that slinky, kind of snaky, kind of and I was like, oh, maybe Brian would be cool for this too. He's got like that vibe where he's not just like this stoic rock guy, like an Avenged Sevenfold singer or like a James Hetfield. He's got like that Scott Weiland type vibe almost. And I was like, oh, he'd be perfect. So that's how I kind of thought about Brian. But what we did at first is, since me and Dave were the kind of originals of this, it started with me, called Dave. Me and Dave, I met Dave in Vancouver, and we just said, let's do this after I called Brian. So let's all of us just get together in a room, into a studio, and just jam and see if it works. And if it doesn't, we tried, and it was cool to just hang out with each other. And if it does, then we'll see what happens. So I think there's a picture of us on day one. We all flew into Vancouver and into Abbotsford, actually. And we went to Danny Craig's studio, drummer for Default. And we all just met up there and we just hung out in the studio and we just, boom, it just started flowing. We were like laughing and writing music and it just worked. And I've always loved Brian's voice and it was perfect for what we were doing.
When I was 14, my family did a road trip to BC for a family reunion. And at the start of the road trip, we went into HMV in a mall and I had a CD Walkman and I had the money to buy two albums. And I bought Blink 182 Enema of the State and I bought I Mother Earth Blue Green Orange. So
Nice.
for this
Yeah.
days long road trip, I only have two albums, they're 40 minutes each. I can only rotate through two albums. So I Mother Earth Blue Green Orange was one of them.
I love that, man. Again, another, like, my sister being the music fan she was, I wore out a lot of those CDs that she had. A lot of, like, she loved I Mother Earth too. So I had those records. And that's funny because, you know, they saw me as their peer. But again, I'm so much younger than Dave. Dave's 10 or 12 years older than me, maybe more. Yeah, Dave's, I think, 12 or 13 years older than me, 12 years older than me. And Brian, same thing. So I'm calling them, and they're listening to me as their peer and, they respected me. But I don't think they remember or they really knew that, like, I had their records and I was huge fans of them. So for me, I loved it. I got to play with, guys that I grew up listening to, and now we're in the same band together. So I always had, and that's happened to me in a few different situations. And you have to pinch yourself when that happens. They're looking at you as an equal now, but you're looking at them as like, I listened to your stuff when I was a kid. So yeah.
So you guys went from Brian Byrne to Brian Crouch, which is
Yes.
awesome. You're just claiming all the amazing Brians in Canada. And
We had to have the best Brian.
my band way back in the day in 2006 and 2008, we opened for Hail the Villain. So that's Brian Crouch was the singer. Man, that guy, we're talking about Scott Weiland on stage. He was like the reincarnation of that. You just couldn't take your eyes off of him. Like he was
No.
just so magnetic up there and such a front man. Is that what drew you to him for this project?
Yeah. So Brian Byrne was who I saw really for the project. And Brian had something crazy to happen in his life, and so he had to depart. And honestly, like a piece of me died when Brian had to leave, Brian Byrne, because Brian to me was my vision of what the band was supposed to be. And when me and Dave were like, this can't end. We have been having way too much fun doing this. And like our first song went top 15 in the country. Like that's pretty damn good. Kids, we had no label. We did this completely independently on our own. Um, so and we and our first tour we made money on our first ever tour being independent. So we were like, oh shit, like this is real now. What ended up happening was me and Dave started talking about who can replace Brian Byrne. And I immediately thought of Brian Crouch because I remember touring and playing shows with Hail the Villain back in the day when both My Darkest Days and Hail the Villain were independent. And then fast forward when we were both signed and now in the States touring together and playing shows together in America. And it didn't matter who the hell the headliner was. When you played with Hail the Villain, everybody was scared to go and play after them. Like I don't care what the headliner of the tour was or whatever the festival. After people saw Hail the Villain, they're like, oh fuck. Like, and I know we hated playing with them because it was just like, how do you like Brian was just a crazy frontman. Like, how do you top that? You know? So he really stuck out in my head. So I called him, and at first he was reluctant because he was out of music, out. Like after Hail the Villain, he blew out his voice completely, and it really fucked I think his confidence too. So first time I called him, I think I actually had to pull at him a few times because he was just like, oh yeah, let's connect or let's chat. And I was like, just let's get on a call. Let's get on a call. Got on a call. And I kind of said, like, this is the vision. This is what we've done. And he was at first reluctant. And I soon found out that he was more worried about the expectation of we had of him. And he thought that we wanted him to sing like he didn't Hail the Villain, which destroyed his throat.
Very
And I
aggressive.
said, no, it was very aggressive and it destroyed his voice. And he was open. And I told him, I was, man, like, you don't have to sing like that. Like, I love you as a front man and we'll find your new voice for this man kind of thing. And when he came out, he was a great fit for the next chapter of the band. And he did a fantastic job. And he's very professional, Ryan. That's another thing too. Like he's timely, he's on time, he's regimented in a good way. And so I think we needed that at the time as well, And we had a lot of fun too. Like he was a funny guy, very smart. Yeah, we had a lot of fun too, and he's great.
It's funny that he's that way because that's the opposite of the wild man you see on stage.
Oh yeah, no, he is like very like reliable. Like if he says I never had to worry about Brian Crouch showing up, being there, Whereas like Brian Byrne, also Brian's more airy, He's kind of like me. I'm like that too, where it's just like sometimes you have to tie me down. And I think like I connected with Brian Byrne in that way too, because we're both kind of like we could be like like head in the sky, whereas Brian Crouch is very all right. This is what's going on today. We're doing A, B, C, and D. So it was different, but again, we had a great tours that we did with Brian Crouch, and unfortunately, we like I said, the tour ended during COVID, and we had to go back, and we didn't. COVID went on for so long. The shows kept getting delayed. I ended up moving to Florida. Default got back together, right? And I think that unfortunately, sometimes timing things happen. So that's where it went.
We have a fan question from Russell Graham. Russell says, I found out about you when I went to see my good friend John Gabriel's band Altered Fate in Wasaga Beach, Ontario. I thought Bonds of Mara had fantastic energy and a great sound. Was it just timing that prevented Bonds of Mara from really taking off? So much talent in that band.
Yeah, he nailed it. It was timing completely. COVID, and it like I said, we our first song independently went top 15 in the country, and we were packing shows across the country, and it was freaking awesome. And it was just timing. And I think maybe we would have been able to get back into it, but it's hard when you have momentum and then the momentum completely stops. It's almost like you're starting from scratch again. Like, we have top 15 song, and if we were able to then release another one and keep going, it would have been a lot better, But I think when you kind of go on hiatus for a couple of years because of a pandemic, it's like, man, we're gonna have to start this from scratch again. And then by that time, Default was already, and I had moved to Florida, so it kind of complicated things.
So we can't talk about Bonds of Mara without getting kind words sent in from your BFF, Dave Benedict. So this is what Dave
Oh, here
has
we
to
go.
say. He says,
Okay.
Sal Costa isn't just one of my closest friends, he's family. I first met him when he joined My Darkest Days, and we hit the road together on tour with our friends in Hinder. From day one, our twisted sense of humor clicked, and I knew this guy was special. What drew me to Sal was his unwavering dedication to his family. That kind of commitment is rare, and I've admired him for it ever since. Fast forward about 8 years, Sal calls me up with this wild idea. He wanted to start a band with Brian Byrne from I Mother Earth and Rich Bedeau from Finger 11. The second he asked if I wanted in, it was an instant yes. The chemistry between us was electric, and the songs poured out effortlessly. Sal is by far the most talented guitarist, singer, and songwriter I've ever had the privilege to create with. More than that, he's my brother. And honestly, I don't think I've ever laughed harder with another human being in my life. So that's from Dave Benedict.
I love Dave, man, and what he said, not about the musical stuff, but what he said about laughing. I've never had so many laughs in my life like I have with Dave. You want to hear a funny story? Actually, a quick one. Dave and I, like he said, we have the same twisted sense of humor, and we can laugh like we can throw up laughing about stuff that other people would just not find funny at all, and just bleeding laughing for us. We were writing with Bon Samara once, and Dave had ordered a pizza or something like that. He had ordered a pizza, or it was a grocery store pizza or something like that. And we're all kind of working and writing. And Dave, I walk into the kitchen. I leave kind of the writing area. I walk into the kitchen, and I see Dave's pizza in the microwave. And so I take it out, and I'm just looking at this pizza. And I had been cutting a lemon because I drink lemon water. And I cut open this lemon. And dude, I've never seen this many seeds in my life in a lemon. I was like, this entire lemon is seeds. So I'm just shaking out all these seeds, and I'm looking at the seeds. I'm looking at Dave's pizza. I'm like, I don't fuck with Dave. So I start stuffing the seeds deep in the pizza and pack it with seeds. Dave comes into the room, comes back to the writing area. And we have this all on camera because we had a kind of documenting the whole band. We had a guy named Randy, a friend of ours, kind of have cameras on us. And I didn't say anything to anybody. I did say a word. This was solely for me because I'm dark like that. Like, I would laugh and not tell anybody, So Randy's filming, and you just see us writing, and then Dave take a bite of the pizza. He's, oh, what is that? And he's like, oh, it looks like a seed, man. I don't know, there's a seed in my pizza. He's like so confused, and everyone's like, oh, that's weird. And Brian Crouch, like I said, he's very ready. Right back on track. Okay, let's focus on what we were talking about. Let's focus on this course, and we'll go here. And then Dave takes another bite. He's like, oh, he's like, there's another seed in my pizza. He's like, it tastes like a lemon seed. And then I just started laughing my ass off. And anyways, started telling him that I packed his entire pizza with lemon seeds. That he just started laughing too. And it's just our kind of humor. We fuck with each other like that. So anyways, yeah, he's the best. And Dave is honestly one of my favorite all-time bass players to play with. And anytime I think of anything musically, even my wife was just like, you're gonna probably call Dave to be a part of this. I'm like, Well, of course, he's the best. I love Dave. So yeah,